Steps 36 and 37 show the rectangular gray pieces being placed in the left and right sides to secure and to stabilize the front and the back to make them square and equidistant so these parts fit together firmly. Also, just like before, there are two sides, one with a well-rounded and flat place where the bolts go through, and the opposite side with a cut-out square area where the nuts fit in exactly. So it does make it more clean, more secure, more tight of a connection if you make sure the flat rounded side goes where your bolts are going in. One thing to notice in step 41, there is a difference between the nut going on those screws. One of them is a regular nut, one is a lock nut. Check it out. You'll be able to tell once you look at the diagram, but look closely so that you get the right one on the right one. 41 looks like some kind of wing assembly. Yeah, just here it is. Yeah, it is flying. Oh, but wait, it's its head. There we go, rightly placed on top of the robot. Yep, I can see it is starting to form a brain. Step 42, it is very difficult to get the nuts under the right places to get the bolts in place to secure this. So you will probably need a really good friend with small hands to fit that in under there to help you. Just saying, that one isn't easy, and you'll have to be kind of creative about poking little fingers through areas to make sure you are holding those nuts securely. Steps 43, 44, and 45 are all about putting together this assembly. The only tricky part that we saw was there is a lock nut that does have to be slipped into the white casing before the motor part is in there. And that's it. Steps 47 and 48 are assembled as shown. There is an orange bracket that goes around the motor assembly. The wire, of course, needs to be strung around back to make that fit correctly. Also, there is a shorter bolt used. On the manual, they refer to it as S2. In the PDF document, it refers to it as, I believe, M2. It's just a part that is not even referred to in the manual at all. But the S2, as measured exactly on in the manual, does seem to work, and it fits into the lock nut just fine. So the S2, as the manual says, is going to work out. Steps 49 and 50 appear to be attaching yet another white casing with another motor in it. There does seem to be a little discrepancy on the PDF image. The drawing itself shows two different types of screws used in step 49, but what we're seeing is the standard S3 for both screws is the correct one as in the manual. So 49 requires two of the S3s, and they just simply go into the orange casing to attach the white casing. And in step 50, it's the same kind of dealio, where there is a lock nut that has to go into the white casing before the motor, and that wire from the motor has to be wrapped around it well in order not to be cut off or inaccessible. Something to note in step 50, when placing the motor inside the white housing, the longer of the wires is on top or away from the other motor. Very much like prior steps, steps 51 and 52 have two parts of a round white casing that go around the motor. And the second step, step 52, requires the longer bolts as shown. On step 53 and step 54, it is the S2 screw that is slightly shorter than the S3 that is used. That's important because that length is the right length. The S3 actually makes the part not work well. So the S2, shorter S2 for 53. Step 54 also has only one of those shorter screws, and somewhat confusingly, it's trying to describe that you're putting together the parts from step 52 and step 53. But the picture lets you know what's going on. After step 55, the orange and surrounding pieces should move around the motor freely. You know, there will be just a little hesitation, but it should look as if a motor could allow that to move. And it just should feel secure. And note again, in step 55, it's a shorter screw. It's the S2. 55 is the S2. In the PDF file, please note they mislabeled that as M2, and it is not correct. It is the S2 as it is on the paper manual. Step 56 is just simply plugging it together. Not difficult. Step 57 looks tricky, but it really isn't. The housings fit together very well. This is back to the standard S3 screws, and the nuts fit securely inside the carved out square space area. It's fitting correctly. This is step 57 as it is assembled. The screws go in from the outside and the nuts fit really well in an interior carved out spot. Hard to show on the camera, but you'll get the idea. 58 is kind of like the back of his skull, and it adheres to the top gray pieces. This might be a little more helpful than the diagrams on the PDF or in the manual, but one of the sets of screws is right at that short cutout area of the gray piece, the one right in front of the Meccanoid logo. There it is. And then you skip one, and then there's the corresponding back screw. So all four of those are S3, the standard S3. 59 has the corner pieces, or brackets, whatever you want to call them, attached to both the left and front and outside of those gray pieces. And, you know, finally, he can shake his head side to side and look like he's alive, look like he's thinking about it. He can definitely shake his head. No. 61, 62, and 63 are all using the standard S3 screws. The only thing unusual is with step 62. Just make sure the round pieces fit well with the centerpiece, and they then attach to the main assembly on the farthest left and the farthest right of the front brackets on top. What step 63 looks like finished. 64, 65, 66, and 67, it's deja vu all over again. It is a motor assembly with all the same housing pieces as used before in previous steps, and that's what the finished part looks like. 68 assembles a white casing with one of those gray squared connection pieces. This is the finished product after step 70. It shows some darker gray pieces, as well as the assembly from step 68 and 67 all put together. There we go. Step 74, please make note of how the orange assembly is attached to the flatter motor as it is sitting on its side like this. That is the only way that will attach correctly. I'm also showing, of course, 75 being completed and 76. Already, it looks like we are building an arm. Note that step 78 has the hand with the thumb facing you, and it is attached at an angle. It is not square, it is at an angle onto the square gray piece. Here is a finished assembly, and that would be step 79. Step 79. Notice you can read Meccanoid, and it is at an angle, and the thumb is facing towards you. 80 is pretty straightforward using the standard S3 screws. Step 81 goes back to what is in your paper manual as an S2, or the shorter screw, and there are 2 of those in the manual, and that is the arm socket being attached. One is the placement of the arms. I don't know if you noticed, but he's got a distinct left and right arm. And one way to tell that or make that distinction is with the elbow piece motors, where the bulk of the yellow-green looking part that sticks out goes to the outside on the left, and also the outside on the right. So that is one way to tell you've got those elbows hooked up correctly. Another thing, of course, the hands need to be placed inward and at an angle. You'll see a paper manual showing 2 of the S2s. This is showing the completed step 81, where the shoulder is attached. The S2s are attaching the arm to the shoulder socket, and he's ready to give you a high 5. Okay, so it's a high 4, but you know, it works. It works. Step 69, which is repeated in step 87, it's making, you know, the left and then the right arm, shows those gray pieces as having the cut-out square style holes on the outside where the bolts go in, contrary to how they were done in earlier parts. Yeah, I'm sorry about it. I just report the news. The next steps involve simply assembling the arm just as it was assembled before, but in step 91, an S2 is needed instead of an S3, the slightly shorter screw. Not the standard S3, but the S2. Even though it says both in the PDF and the paper manual, S3, so sorry, it doesn't work well. You'll need the S2, at least that's what we found. Here he is at step number 100. Both arms are attached at the shoulders, and he looks like he is ready for business. A leg from step 101 to step 111. And then for punishment, you're told to do that again. On step 111, it is exactly that. You repeat steps 101 through 110 again. And when we did so, and we got to step 109 for the second time, we ran one short of the B1 style bolt. Unfortunately, we did not have anything exactly like that at home. We had something similar we made work. However, I don't know, may just need a little trip to the store there to get an additional bolt. I'll let you know how that works out for us. But we've got something that we've made work for this project, but you may run short. And as well, you know, we're noticing on the PDF at 110, they're suggesting you use 2 of the B1 bolts, but in the manual, they're saying all of these, all 7, are the style S3, the standard S3, which is what we did the last time around, and it worked just fine. So it doesn't look like we need more B1s for this step at all. And then finally, you may get to step 111 for the second time, and you're ready to go on with the legs. 11 through 128 are to assemble this wheel housing for the feet. It is pretty straightforward. The only gotcha might be that you need to check for the lock nuts versus the regular ones, just to make sure they're in the right place. Otherwise, you're good to go. And good news, they let you do this another time. Yes, you get to assemble this again in the following steps. Note that in step 122, you'll need the motor with the yellow connection on the end. It is specifically for the robot's left leg. If it is not correctly put in the left leg at step number 122, it won't connect through the electronics in the correct way once it is threaded and hooked into the center control unit. In step 139, you'll need the motor with the white connection tip. It is on the robot's right leg, needed to go into the right leg's connection at the motor's connection box. Please note in step 142, they are asking for a slightly longer piece than what is really shown in the equipment listing. However, in the actual picture for assembly, it does show the correct piece. So don't get scared that you don't have the right piece left, because you probably do. It requires the shorter piece, and if you're like us, you had just exactly one of those left, and that worked. This is a view of the underhousing at step number 139, where it all fits together in a modular way. Good news, as you noticed with the arms, the second one goes faster and it just seems like it's a little easier because you've seen it all before. And the next part, of course, is to attach the second leg, and it is pretty straightforward. Just follow the directions as closely as possible. Finally, we got through step 155, and here it is. Before we go to step 156, we'll need to charge the battery pack. It just simply plugs into the wall, connects to that wall charging unit, and has to show a green light indicating that it is charged before we go on to 156. The first consideration is that the wiring should be in the back so that it does not appear from the front view. There are a short and a long wire connection from both, well, all the motors. And starting with the elbow, the short connector on the elbow motor does not connect to anything. However, the long one does. It connects up to the short connector of the outside shoulder. And then the short connector of the motor that's on the inside part of the shoulder gets connected to the long part of that motor, and then the long part of that inside shoulder gets connected to the motor controller, and as well at the other arm. It seems rather straightforward, but it just is odd that there is no connection for the short piece of the motor that is the elbow motor. Two methods to tuck these wires in. The hooks actually work well on one of the arms that were meant to hold these wires in place, but just because of the nature of like how one of them is in reverse, those hooks did not work well with one of those arms, so we just simply looped it around. It is sufficient to note there is no reference to these arms and how they are wired completely in the manual. So you'll know once you've plugged it in the first time. He does a systems check for you and makes sure that everything is connected correctly, and Meccanoid will let you know. Another possible problem area is connecting the electronics of the head. There is a square unit in the back, and its wire connects to the motor. It's a long wire, and it connects to the short connector of the motor, and then that longer connector from the motor goes to another motor, and that long wire goes to the short wire there, and then yet longer wire from that second motor goes directly to the control unit. One last thing to note is with the wiring, you want a little bit of give, because these arms, well, they just start, you know, flailing around, and you just need some room there. I know this looks like it's a little loose, but you really do want a lot of give there. He just, you know, moves around like a wild man.
Mecha brain activated. Running system diagnosis.
I'd also like to make note of some of the resources online at www.erector.us, also Meccanoid.com, which will redirect back to erector.us. You've probably already seen the commercials for the Meccanoids. Well, they're actually a good tutorial for the LIM recording and the LIM library use. They just really demonstrate that very well. So anytime you see learn more next to introducing the Meccanoids on the screen there at erector.us, learn more after introducing the Meccanoids, you'll get these videos, these commercials. And like I say, they're great tutorials for the LIM motion library and so on. Also to note, there is an Apple app. Well, actually, it's an app store. You can view this app in iTunes, and the name of it is Meccanoid. That's what they're talking about with using the remote control of that. One of the tricks, of course, is to get the Bluetooth to sync. They have a little tutorial actually within the app, but you just select the Bluetooth device in a small rectangle on the top, and then you select that yet again once it is in the center, and then it connects. Do not have your unit in the drone mode. That does not work with this Bluetooth enabled device. So just not the drone mode, and just select the device once your Bluetooth does find that, and actually it works pretty well. You're good to go. Just make sure that you've got a device with a front-facing camera. That is one of the things that really does work much better, is to have a front-facing camera with that device that you're using. But the unit works just great without the downloadable update. They also have a video of other builds that you can do, such as the dinosaur. Anyway, that's a wrap. Best wishes.